as a growing human, growing through life, I have had to completely put aside my looks, and which was a journey, because in my 20s I was like, my looks, my looks.
Yeah. Of course.
My fucking looks.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to lead with that, So I've actively tried to like put them away. So if people are like, oh, I wish I had that, I'm not saying I wish I didn't have it, but I'm saying like I've had to put that away because in the end it hurts me if I'm leading with that. That's how meaningless it is.
Right.
In the growth of a human.
I'm thrilled about meeting new people and having great conversations. And so, obviously from the baseline that I know, you're doing some fantastic modeling. And as Mark says, you got a very brilliant mind and you are a libertarian activist to some degree. So I don't even know what the heck that all means. I'm very curious. And so I ask a lot of questions. And that's how this will always go. It will continue that way. But I always believe that a story starts somewhere, right? And it has a beginning point, it has a genesis, and then it's kind of evolving through time. And now we're right here in this moment in time. So if you would, please share with us some of how this all came together for you, where you come from, the journey of you, and then in some of my famous lines, I'll jump in and I'll find some of the meat, I'll pull it out, we'll have a great conversation around it.
Okay, sounds good. So I was born and raised in New Jersey, and I was raised by my dad is like a libertarian atheist. My mom is a Republican, very spiritual Protestant. So my parents were very different people.
Okay.
My dad's an entrepreneur. My mom's an artist. So I think like being raised by two polar opposite people started me off having a very broad, open mind to like life, really, So I was raised there, and I have siblings, two siblings, older sister, younger brother, love them. Good relationships, lots of animals at home, life in suburbia, whatever. Went to college in Savannah, Georgia. I went to Savannah College of Art and Design for art.
Okay.
Didn't finish because I was like, this is not my thing. I'm an artist, and I'm like not to toot my own horn, but I'm a really good artist.
Yeah.
But I just knew I wasn't going to have that be like my career.
Right.
I felt it in my bones. You know what I mean? So I did 2 years, quit, moved to New York City, did a couple like random jobs. I was doing spray tans. I was going out to clubs. Like I was young and crazy. And I was just kind of, I don't know, being wild and just not having a plan and living, which was awesome. And then I started modeling in New York, and I got picked up very quickly. I think I did one shoot with some photographer, and then I sent it into a bunch of agencies. Then I wound up signing with Wilhelmina like right away. And then I was like, all right, I guess I'll do this.
Yeah.
Really didn't have much direction at all. And I was modeling full time for like, I want to say it was like 3 or 4 years and having success, like booking campaigns. Really, the first castings I went to, I was booking. But it took years before I was like, maybe I should take this seriously.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like I was just so young and like, I don't know. I didn't have much direction in my young life, but I was lucky to have like a lot of opportunity come my way. So once the opportunity started coming into my life, and it took me a while to trust that, I think, I guess, and once I saw it happening, I was like, wait, like, and I remember I was like on set a couple times, and I met a couple other models who were like more accomplished than me, and they were like business women. And I remember being struck by that and being like, wow, that girl's like really like professional and serious. And, I was like, maybe I should do that. Maybe I should take this seriously and like treat it like a business. And then that's when my like the entrepreneur in me kind of like came alive, because my whole half of my family are entrepreneurs on my dad's side, and I am too. But it took me some time to like step into my adult self. I think I was like a late bloomer like that.
Interesting.
You know,
Sure.
I wasn't much of a student. I have a really high IQ, but I'm not a good student because I am bored very easily.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like, I think a lot of people can empathize with that. I was in public school, not stimulating. I felt like I was being babysat, and I was raised by two parents that were really free thinkers, independent thinkers, and so for me to be in this institution that was very narrow in its scope of like what it was intellectually proposing to me, like I was just like, this, why am I studying a battle from 1700s? I don't care, like right. I just, as a young person, like I was like, I reject this. Yeah. I reject all of this, So I actually put my parents through hell when I was in high school. But, I've had a weird journey to like where I've gotten to. It was not linear at all. It was up, down, crazy. Look, you know what I mean? Like that.
Of course.
So I stayed modeling for a long time, and I'm 38 now. I'm still modeling. I started with Wilhelmina. I went to 2 other agencies in between, and now I'm back with Wilhelmina, and I love them. They're really good. Yeah. But, during that time of being a model, I've gotten my hands into so many other projects, and I've also gotten, I've studied acting, and I've shot my first film, and I went to Strasbourg, and I've been in so many TV shows and movies just from being a model and being put into these productions just because my looks and everything. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of taken me down a road where now I'm an actor and I'm loving it. It's like, I'm much more passionate about that than I am about modeling. And I always knew I wanted to do it, but it took me so long to get all my ducks in a row for that, because my life has been very like,
yeah.
So, and yeah, in between that, I started I built and created an online course. I own a transportation company. I am a painter. I do so many things, but my bread and butter has always been modeling, and I love it.
Sure.
And it feels like that's what I'm supposed to do.
Sure.
A lot of the time. And now my focus is acting. I just moved back to New York City. I'm shopping for an agent. And I just shot my first lead film. I went to Mumbai, India, like 6 months ago, and I was leading a film there. It was awesome, an independent film. And I'm just getting into that industry. And so, yeah, I've had a very unconventional path.
Which means there's no regrets, though, too, right? Where it's like, it sounds like you're living into things you enjoy, that you're passionate about, that bring you the most thrill. And so... Yeah. Look, I mean, at the end of the day, when you're 100 and you're looking back, it's not going to be like, oh, I wish I would have did that. I should have did that, right?
I'll never have that, because everything I want to do, I do it.
Yeah.
And I don't do things that I don't want to do.
Interesting.
Except during lockdown, when my entire industry died, and I was like, oh my God, I lost my transportation company. I lost my modeling career because obviously the whole industry was just like doors closed, crickets.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? But I was thankfully already living in New Jersey during lockdown, because I had a dog who was very dear to me, and he lost his eyesight a year prior to lockdown. So I moved him out of New York City to get him a yard.
Right.
So when lockdown hit, I was in New Jersey, and I was like, oh my God, how am I going to make money? You know what I mean? But when I was a teenager, I had gotten my cosmetology license. I was just like, I like doing hair. Yeah. I'll do this. And I'm an artist, so it was like easy for me. So you know what I did? I did hair, nails, waxing, everything I could. I got a kit together and people found out about me, and I had like a full-time thing, and I was at people's houses doing like the husband, the mom, the kid, the nanny. People were lining up and I was cutting hair and like doing all this stuff just to get by. That's the only time in my adult life I ever did something I didn't want to do.
Interesting. But
I did it because I had to.
Yeah, exactly, which I think is fascinating because not very many people are that resourceful to so you got your back against the wall, forced you to go out and do something you didn't want to. But because you did that, you probably found another layer of who you were internally, your character, your vibe, and what you were able to do, like strengths test, right? You basically tested out of who you thought you were, and now you have more resilience as a result of that.
Absolutely. And you know what? You know what I have to say about that time? It was humbling. And I needed that. And it's hard to say that because I don't think I was like someone who was like super entitled or not grounded, but compared to what I am now, since that experience, I wasn't as grounded as I should be in reality, because the reality is I've been, a woman living in New York modeling for most of my life. And I was a little bit spoiled, and I don't want to be like that. I want to have my feet on the ground. I want to know what real people are going through. I want to know what it's like to struggle. And I have struggled, of course, but that was like real struggle where and that was such struggle that it deepened my empathy for people and situations. And I am an extremely empathetic person, but that was very humbling to me. I mean, wow, it was so hard because it was like physically demanding. I couldn't find the supplies because all the stores were closed. I was going into the back of Sally Beauty, secretly paying people off to get me hair scissors and toenail clippers and everything. It was so end of the world doom. But it was great because I'm like, all right, well, you know what? If the world ends again, I can do hair and nails and I'll be fine. But it really allowed me, I got put in a situation where, like you said, where my back was against the wall. And I think in the past, I might have, if I saw someone in a situation where their back was against the wall, I might have I don't think I would ever be cold and be like, oh, well, but I would have been like, well, maybe you didn't do something right. And this is why it's happening to you. But the thing is, I did everything right up until then. And it happened to me.
Yep.
So I understand now that sometimes you do everything right in life and you still get the shit under the stick. You know what I mean?
Correct.
And that happened to me. And I'm glad for it. It was deeply humbling.
Sure.
But also it was fun because I met a lot of cool people and I met so many cool women and I got into the community in New Jersey where I was living and it was, I made money. I survived that. I moved down to Florida and it was just a crazy, weird time.
I think it was for a lot of people. I find what you say a place that I want to go because you're talking about, there's a moment right there where you, let's just say, oh shit, what am I going to do? Right. And what's worked before is who you've built yourself up to be and know yourself as, right? Which is a successful model. I'm in New York. And by the way, you almost stole the words out of what I was already thinking about, because I'm going to ask you some questions on that too, about the sort of the lifestyle, but not from a place of, I care to know about, what the models get. I saw it because I lived in Vegas my whole life and I used to promote and host nightclubs. So I understand the model thing and I've experienced it before. But there's an attitude that comes with that, which I want to talk to you about, which is what I'm going to table for just a second. But in that moment where you were faced with the adversity of, okay, oh shit, here's what I have to do next. What's the process you're going through there to find the resolve internally that says, okay, because here's where I think a lot of people make the mistake, Julia, is that they have those moments and then they choose internally to do nothing or to just take the low road, and they don't go out and figure out how to go put themselves against the wall, because what you said was, hey, I had humility, right? Hey, I had to go out and figure this thing out. Most people were like, I'm too good for that. And so I'd rather go over here and ask grandpa for money, or I'd rather go over here and try this other thing out that, kind of serves my ego. But you didn't do that. And so I'm curious how you would explain that process, or give somebody something that they can work with, so that when they're faced with that same pressure or life circumstance, they can too think about this moment that you share something from and say, hey, maybe try this. It could work, because that's not a normal response with everybody. Some people choose, and I don't know numbers, I'm just subjectively making this up, but 50% go the low road, and then
Yeah.
you plus the other 50% go the high road. It could be different numbers. I'm just making those up. But the point is, I'm very curious on how you would answer that. Does the question make sense?
Of course. Yeah. You know, I've never in my life felt like I'm better than anyone,
Hmm.
because I don't think I am.
Right.
I don't think anyone is better than anyone else for any reason. And, we're all born like, and we didn't ask for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so
We
true.
get here
Yeah.
and we need to all survive.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We're all put into extremely different circumstances when we're born. And that's something that I just have always been so aware of. And,
Mm.
I just can empathize with people very easily. And I don't think I'm better than anyone. And I think that's why I'm able to meet anyone where they are. And also, I'm a human. I can be in a bad situation.
Yeah.
Oh, because I'm beautiful, I
Mhm.
can't have a bad situation. No, because my looks, first of all, I didn't earn them.
Mm.
Okay. It's not like I studied at college for 4
Yeah.
years to get this. This was given to me.
This is powerful and deep. I don't think I've ever heard this before. I'm loving this. I'm like,
Oh, good.
so good. No. And I had to jump in there because like what you're going down the path of right now is phenomenal. Like it is so powerful. But sorry to
Yeah.
interject there. I'm like
Okay.
all for this right now.
I don't think that it's something that I get to be like, I'm better than you because I look a certain way. I did nothing to get this. It was something that was dropped in my lap by God. It doesn't mean anything to me.
Hmm.
I use it because I can,
Right.
and I'm
Yeah.
smart, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to do it. But does that make me more accomplished, more deserving, a better person? No, nothing. So when I see a woman or even a man who's very good looking have like some kind of superiority complex, I actually think it points to a lack of intelligence, a lack of emotional depth, a lack of humility because they didn't earn it.
Hmm.
Okay, now listen, I do take care of my looks. I do things to keep my looks up. But the reality is, like, I was born like this, and it does not make me, I didn't do anything to make myself better than anyone.
Mhm.
You know what I
Right.
mean? My looks, it doesn't mean anything in here.
Mhm.
So, you know, I think that comes from my family a lot because my family's never treated me like, oh, she's beautiful, she's a princess. They're
Ah.
like, they're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you're not special. Like, you're not gonna
Yeah.
be some jerk. You know what I mean? Like, and that's good. But it also comes from me because, I'm very well traveled. I've had extreme struggles in my life. And I've had like such a life of parallels in terms of like experiences of like lifestyle and like money and stuff like that. I've been extremely poor
Mhm.
and I've been extremely wealthy also.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I feel like God put me on this earth with such parallels, even with my parents and my all my experiences. I'm always experiencing parallels.
Hmm.
So, to answer your question, when you have circumstances where everything's against you and nothing's working and you're really screwed, that's kind of when you find out how strong you are.
Yeah.
And it's a test. And, you know, you got to go deep inside yourself and you say, what kind of person do I want to be right now? That's what I did. Like,
Yeah.
what kind of person do I want to be? And you know what? I have to admit, there were times during lockdown when I was literally giving manicures, pedicures in people's yards. Like I was literally like in the grass, like scrubbing people's feet, painting their toenails, giving them manicures with a hose. Like it was so crazy.
That's amazing.
And I was like, I had so many thoughts of like, what happened to my life? How did I fall so low? But I didn't like that because I'm like, no, I liked that those thoughts were coming up. Well, I didn't like that they were coming up, but I didn't like the feelings that I was having when I was having those thoughts because I was like, no, I'm not too good for this. I respect a woman who does manicure pedicures. They work their asses off. I love to get a nice pedicure. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with this. I shouldn't feel bad about it. So I kept doing it. And it's like, you know, I mean, maybe this ties into like my libertarian pro free market mindset where I'm like, the market determines where you're valuable. And right now my value is doing nails and hair. You know what I mean? So do it. But, you know, it's just when you're faced with like really bad times and no options or very limited options or compromising options, listen, some people are just tougher than other people. I think some people are just born a certain way.
Right.
And I don't blame the people that aren't strong enough to get through times like that because I don't know if they're wired for that. But I am.
Right. You just
my survival is like, look, I'm a survivor. Like I have this thing in me where like I can like switch it off and I'm like, I'm in survivor mode now. I do whatever it takes to make something happen or to get through something or whatever it is, you know? So, but some people don't have that. And I don't think they should be faulted for that.
Sure.
Because that's a strength and it's a weakness. And we all have different strengths and weaknesses, you know? So I don't even think it's something that should be like, I don't know if that's something that should be so admired or sought after even because is it a strength? Yeah, if you're in survival, but then like it can be a double-edged sword, you know, where like a more sensitive person who maybe wouldn't be able to make it through those times and do what I did, they have strengths that I don't have.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess I just have this really deep root into the humility of like being a human.
Yeah.
You know?
You highlight the fascinating part there that I was getting, the phenomenal way to say it all, by the way. The highlight of your representation of the fact that you were born that way and you were gifted that hand, right? Like the dealer dealt the hand, using Vegas language, and you got blackjack in that department, right? And it's funny that you say that because I've said the same thing in my case with certain things, and I relate it to exactly what you say because I try to take the same approach with, look, I can't teach you how to have a big smile like I do. It's like, it's just that thing that I was given a gift with, right? And so when you said that, I realized like I've rarely ever heard that from somebody else, which makes me think that from what you're saying, it's like, hey, the question becomes, Julia, to the rest of the audience is like, hey, how can you harness what you were gifted with, right? What's the hand that you were dealt? Irregardless of you think you look ugly, irregardless if you think that you have a funny looking face or whatever that narrative is that you're making up, the question is, well, how can you realize that you too are, in fact, gifted and the hand that you were dealt is worth something, a lot? And so would you have any wise words on top of that for someone out there that might be thinking, well, easy for us to say because you are good looking, but you know, what could be something that somebody out there might be suffering around where they think they got dealt a bad hand and they don't think that they're good looking and they're not part of that grouping of people, or they're naturally big boned and their families are, all 6 foot and somebody's, whatever that could be, right?
Yeah.
Is there some wise words that you could have around helping that person get in touch with themselves to realize that they are special and unique and one of a kind in their own ways?
Absolutely. I have so many thoughts on this because my looks have been such a big part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, there's this like stupid belief that if someone is beautiful or good looking, that their life is easy and perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And that couldn't be farther from the truth.
Yeah.
It just couldn't be farther from the truth. My life, I mean, my best friends know, they're like, how are you okay? Like, I'm telling you,
Yeah.
life is not easy. And I have to say, I really feel at times my looks make my life harder sometimes. Okay. And that's another conversation. But what I would say to people that are like, oh, I'm not good looking or something, and now I feel bad about myself and I don't have other gifts. That's a myth. Being good looking literally doesn't do anything for you if you don't do anything with it. And I was blessed with good looks, but there are many things that I'm not good at, that I was not blessed with.
Mm-hmm.
And, I just wish people, this is going to sound so stupid to say, but I have to say it. I wish people knew how hard my life is sometimes, even though I'm good looking.
Yeah, yeah.
I hate to even say it because it sounds so stupid. It's just so cringe. You know what I mean? But my God, I've gone through struggles. And the thing is, like, my looks have made my life harder in so many ways because there's so many assumptions about me. And I get treated a certain way, sometimes good, sometimes horrible. I don't have good luck with men. This has been a very hard thing in my life to field this, because I have men pursuing me that don't have my best interests at heart. You know what I mean? My whole life it's been like that. And like, I think I have attracted a lot of the wrong men because of my looks. But I would like people to know that, like, my looks, they don't mean anything to my heart. And it's completely separate from the person I am. And it's just like, it's weird because it's such a part of my life, because it's like my business and stuff, and it affects so many things. But as a growing human, growing through life, I have had to completely put aside my looks, and which was a journey, because in my 20s, I was like, my looks.
Yeah. Of course.
I'm like, fuck my looks.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to lead with that, So I've actively tried to, like, put them away. So if people are like, oh, I wish I had that, I'm not saying I wish I didn't have it, but I'm saying, like, I've had to put that away because in the end, it hurts me if I'm leading with that. That's how meaningless it is.
Right.
In the growth of a human.
It's a profound point of view, because on the opposite side of this, talking about like going into something and struggling, if you were to walk into the relationship that I have with my fiance, one of the first things that I actively said to her when we first started dating was, I have an issue. And it was because I had become conditioned for 30 years, like I lived in Vegas. I did the party stuff. Sure. Similarly what you did, right?
I understand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So you were on
I
the
know that.
female side. I was on the male side.
Okay.
And so I got used to going out with and meeting with and, I was sleeping around with beautiful women, random girls from all over the world. And it conditioned me. It conditioned me to have this image in my head of how beautiful I wanted my woman to be. It conditioned me of how I wouldn't settle for anything less. It conditioned me to always say, I want a woman that's 10 years younger than me. Like I had these programs running in my head.
Yeah.
And my fiance is 38 and we are going on this journey. And one of the early struggles that I had was getting over that mentality as the man of thinking like you're saying right now, where I was going out only to get the looks.
Yeah.
I
And
was,
I've had that my whole life.
yeah. And I
You have
was,
to feel it. But you're a man doing that, but you
yeah,
were conditioned into that,
correct.
especially in that world.
Totally. So I've had to rewire myself, like you're saying exactly, to focus on the person that I have in front of me, not me, her, but also me too. Of course, it's a journey of growth and evolution always, and she's beautiful. It's not even like she's gorgeous, but in my head, I've had to rewire myself because I've realized that conditioning was terrorizing me internally, and it would never have allowed me to settle down and be with someone. And I always would have thought of like, what else is out there, or the grass is greener, or, you're not what I want. And so then it would have gone to another one. And then I probably would have ran through that one and then another one.
Yeah, it would be like a black hole.
Anyway, I'm glad that we're on the same page, because it's like highlighting the fact that I'm the man in that situation of past, and like you're the female, that's the good looking female there. So very, very well said. So I want to come back to the thing that I was tabling earlier from what you said about that sort of identity of having success as a model and going in that direction, which really where I was going with that was sort of around, you just mentioned it again, Julia, which was like in my 20s, it was like for lack of a better term, I had it all. I could get whatever I want. It's an attitude. You've changed that out in ways, but how did you come to terms with that and identify that in your 20s that wasn't something that you wanted to be anymore? And like, what was the trigger event or something that catalysted even a word? That was the catalyst, is what I was trying to say, for you starting to realize like it's more internally for you. You want to be recognized for the person that you are, not the way that you look. So how does that come together? Because the models I've met and hung around, they all thought that they were the top, and they could have whatever. They acted like they walked with this up. And I was like, that's a false sense of confidence. That is so acting. You're not even, you're so, you're gorgeous. And all you're doing, because I can talk to you and you sound like an idiot. So I know you're not in tune with like how to communicate or who you are. Right. So I guess I'm just curious around that nature of all of that right there. Maybe you can shed some light on why those women don't figure it out, or why they suffer, why they're the majority maybe, and you're the rare one that gets out and takes care of you, wants to be a wholesome person. Fill us in, because I know you got a bunch more wisdom coming down the pipeline.
Well, I think I went through most of my 20s. Well, I think up until I was like 20, 27, 29, something, I don't remember exactly, but around that time, I realized that I had a deep misery inside of me. I was miserable. And I was like, I had spent, almost 10 years running around Manhattan, going to castings, photo shoots, on the trains all day, traveling a lot, leading with my looks. And really, I'm sure I was, flirting with an eating disorder at the same time. I was really underfed, skinny, which makes me so miserable. Working myself to the bone. And like, for what? Like, it's not like I was like, I'm going to cure cancer. I couldn't even justify all that misery that I was doing because I was like, for what? Like, so I can like look good and feel vapid inside and other people can appreciate how I look, but I don't look at myself all day. So I felt I was living for everyone else.
Wow.
Because that's the thing. When you lead with your looks and you live for your looks, you're living for other people. You're not living for yourself.
Wow.
Because you're not feeding your soul, your heart, your mind. You're doing it for everyone outside of you.
Yeah. It's powerful.
And I got so sick of it. And I was so disappointed in myself because I consider myself to be very intelligent. I have a very creative mind. I'm an artist. I'm a reader. I love to learn. I'm inquisitive. I'm an entrepreneur. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, I don't even know what I'm doing. It was like society told me that I had this gift and it was amazing. And then I used it and it sucked. And I was like, all right, I got to do something else. Like, I didn't do something else right away. I kept modeling, obviously, but that's when I started questioning what I was doing in my late 20s. Cause I was just like, and I'm the kind of model where like, obviously I'm 38, I'm still doing it. I can just keep going because of my look. I'm not like a runway model.
Right.
I do beauty campaigns. I can age into it. I'm not going anywhere. So it's not like I was ever like, oh, I'm 25, I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I'm a commercial model. So we can stay in this. I can stay on this for my whole life. I probably will. You know, once I'm acting all the time, I'll probably still be modeling campaigns and stuff like that. And I like it, but that never forced me out of it. Because a lot of runway models, by the time they're 25, they just can't do it anymore because their bodies change so much. Right. But I didn't have that. So I just kept going, and it's great money and it's fun. So I kept going. So it never forced me out. I was never forced out of it, which happens to a lot of girls. But really, I didn't get forced out of it until lockdown. That's when I finally got forced out of it. And that's when I was like, that's when I really like let go of the whole, I have to call it like the model energy, you know, whatever industry you're in, you're going to pick up that energy. I'm sure you know from nightlife, like,
yeah, totally.
You're the nightlife guy. I could probably see you walking down the street and be like, he's a nightlife guy. You know what I mean? Like, you could see me and be like, she's a model. Like, we get these vibes about us. You know what I mean?
I joke. I always say, I know a prostitute when I see one.
100%. Like, we all know, like, that's a scientist, that's a teacher. We embody our careers. Yeah. So it wasn't until lockdown happened that I got to throw away my model energy. And even, you know what's interesting? Before lockdown, I studied at Strasberg, method acting, and I was struggling so much at times because I was so closed and like this, because I was a model. So I had to keep it inside, to keep everything inside, keep my composure. No matter what I felt, I couldn't show it. And then I'm studying method acting where I have to show everything. Yeah. And one of my teachers said, you need to let go of the model. I said, I know, I'm trying. And it was something that I was actively working on. And I got there, but I didn't get there until after lockdown. And I was like, oh, I'm there now. Like, now I can be like weird in public. I can look like shit. I can act and not care what anyone thinks. I can show my full self because I eventually was forced out of the industry for a period of time during lockdown. But yeah, I don't like what it did to me. And I'm really glad that lockdown happened to me because I needed that.
What you just said there is something that I can't help but shine a light on, because I'm a model, my identity is a model, and then you said, hey, I let the model energy go. And then you went out and you were able to be yourself and you had fun. You didn't give a shit what you look like. You're doing this. You're like, isn't that the Isn't that sort of the conundrum in life, do you think, where people are caught up in this professional image or presence, whatever
Mm,
job they might even have, it could be any, business environment, and it's almost like they withhold who they really are. They don't let themselves be free and liberated
yeah.
and go out and live their life. Do you think that it's like a necessary evil, or do you think that you can win by being yourself even in that professional environment? So it's like stripping yourself away of who you think you need to become the fully expressed version of yourself, where it's like you can do what you want, be who you want, and then it's like a glory in and of itself. Do you understand the question there? I sure.
Yeah, of course. Of
Okay.
course I do. And I've thought about this before because, I've never been in an industry that's like restrictive
Mm,
or like regulated or like people that are like very, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, uh, disciplined. No, I shouldn't say that because some models are very disciplined, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to think of like, I don't know if it applies to every industry. Let me start with that. But the more honest and authentic that I am in my interactions with anyone, even if it's something they don't like, if I'm grounded in my reality and I'm being myself, they love me.
yeah.
Even if I'm telling them something like, I'm like, no, or like, I can't help you, or I don't like this. Being in your own truth is so powerful,
Mm,
and it's worth whatever it takes to get there.
mm, yeah.
If you need to, like, you know, tear down walls and mess up your life, and if you get there, it's always worth it. Not because other people like you, but
Right.
because it feels so good to just be like, this is me.
Hmm.
If you don't like it, that's okay. you
Yeah.
know, but I like it
Right.
and I'm not going to try to change it. It's powerful
Hmm.
for your heart and for like your human experience because, like, what are you going to do? Like, be on your deathbed and be like, I never found out who I was? That's sad.
Yeah. I
It's
lived a
scary.
I lived a whole nother existence as somebody else, right?
Oh my God. I think it happens to a lot of people.
Hmm.
But, you know, I say that without judgment though, because life is hard and people need to do what they need to do and they make sacrifices and they have families. And, the other thing that I have to say is like, I've made it to 38 years old. I don't have kids and I don't have a husband. So I've had the freedom to mess up my life
Mm,
if I need to, not that I've messed up my life on purpose ever, but like, I never had to think of like other people yet if
hmm.
my life implodes.
Right.
So I think that's allowed me a lot of liberties in my growth because when you have kids, you can't do that. Not that you can't grow, but you can't be like, oh, well, I'm going to quit. Let it all blow up and I'll have my character development at the end. Like they need to
Yeah.
do it differently.
You're spot on. Why do I know this? Because we just had a baby. He's about to be a year old,
Oh, you
and
did?
and I catch myself where she's taken majority of the workload on that. She's phenomenal at it, and you said spoiled earlier. I've caught myself being spoiled where I don't appreciate what freedom I do have, and then even before I had the kid or got into the relationship, how much um how much freedom I had to work on my growth. Because you're right, I watch I watch how much she works with him and has to be mom for him, and you don't have any free time. Like she doesn't have any free time when she's got that kid.
Moms don't.
No way. No way. And so you're making a life sacrifice in that case. And so what you're saying is spot on. Now, Do you choose that no husband, no kids for that reason, or is that just like a timing thing? You're just waiting for it to like to come together.
I would love to be married. I
Yeah.
would love to have a kid sometime soon, but I'm in a relationship right now and I don't know if it's going to happen. So, you know,
Well, that's fascinating though. Why? Let me ask you that. So, very interesting point you just make. So, if you don't know it's going to happen, is that something then maybe you're willing to go there in pure vulnerability, but if it's not going to happen and you want it, is it worth staying in the relationship then?
oh, well, I'm going through that right now. I
I
am
see.
asking myself that. And it's been really hard because I'm at, I'm finally at a point in my life where, up until now, I'm like, nothing matters for me. Like I said, not that nothing matters, but like I've just been me.
Mm,
And my future was never on the line because everything was, I don't know, it's just me. You know what I mean? But now I'm at the age where I'm like, well, you know, I want to have a family and I want to be someone's wife. I want to be someone's mom. I want to be needed.
hmm
This is something that I think it nothing else in life can ever touch that fulfillment.
Right.
It won't happen. Um and no, I'm not going to give that up for someone else.
Sure.
But I'm going through it right now.
Sure.
And it's been really scary because, I'm at the point now where I'm like, I'm kind of at a crossroads where I'm like, if I don't do this, if I don't have a family and, you know, have a kid or a few, like, I will live a wildly different life than if I do. And the thing is, like, if I don't have my own children, I will probably regret that. But I know that I will adopt children
Hmm.
when I can.
Right.
Um, I'm not sure. Like, it's something that I think about. And it's very humbling to think about this because it's crazy. Like, and that's another thing. Like, people think like, oh, look how she looks. She can get anyone.
Yeah.
No,
Right.
I'm faced with the fact of like, I've gotten to the point in my life where I don't know if I will have the opportunity to get married or have a family. And that is humbling.
hmm
And,
I'm very curious. We go through a lot of relationship stuff on our side. Like last night, we were literally, at each other for things I have to take responsibility for. Right? I mean, there's so many new things that we're being introduced to, and I was a bit disrespectful in how I said something, and it
mm,
really upset her. And then we had to resolve it, and we resolved things. It's not always the prettiest, but I just like you're saying. In context of this conversation with what you're saying, people go through things like we're battling to improve our relationship, which is not easy, especially when you have two different parties that come from two different backgrounds and two different value sets, and now you got a kid, and one's
yeah.
doing this, one's trying this. It's like it is not easy. So,
Mm,
from a perspective of what you're saying right now, is there like because when I hear that now, I've got different schools of thoughts about relationships. Like I feel like to some degree you attract the mirror that you are. And so I don't know how much I believe that, but I've heard it. I'm like, it's interesting. So I try to cross reference it. Are you saying that you've attracted people that you got into relationships with and that weren't good? And then I guess I'm challenging you some way, Julia, to say, did you realize like you were attracting bad people because you still needed to heal in some senses and you still needed to become more in some senses? Like, I feel like there's always some curiosities around that because I think relationships are an arena where people need a lot of growth and a lot of help with. And I think there's different perspectives in this conversation alone between me and mine and then you and yours, right? So maybe we can help some people come around on some thoughts there if you're willing to go there.
sure. I've asked myself that many times where I'm like, so to be clear, I could have gotten married in my 20s
Yeah.
2 times and I didn't. I was not ready. I wasn't there. I wasn't mature enough. It was for two different reasons, but I had the opportunity and I declined. And this relationship that I'm in now has been extremely challenging. And I've asked myself so many times, why did I attract this partner?
Hmm.
I love him dearly, but we trigger each other.
Hmm.
And this relationship has been humbling to me because I think it's the first relationship I've ever been in where I'm really held accountable for what I'm bringing into the energy of whatever we're going through. And I was spoiled in that way. Like, I think a lot of it was like, I was with men who made exceptions for my behavior sometimes because I was good looking and they really wanted that. So they let me kind of like be a monster or whatever, like.
That's a fascinating point.
Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize that. I was just like, this is how it is.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm like, oh, no, that's not how it is.
Yeah.
Because my partner now, I can't be like that with him.
Mm.
And it's been good for me, but very difficult. I have a bad temper.
Mm-hmm.
Like my weakness in relationships is my reactivity and my temper. I have a fast temper.
Sure.
Where I'm like, blah, 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 and I'll just.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I struggle with it. And the thing is, in my past relationships, they would just let me get away with it. But with my partner now, it hurts him so much that it damages us.
Mm.
And I can't do it. And it's so hard for me to not do that and call myself on my own bullshit and try to. It seems so simple, like to just be like, well, just don't yell,
Yeah.
But I'm like, I don't know why it's so hard for me. And I do. And in those moments of when my temper flares up, for me I have to like mentally walk myself through a process of being like, okay, breathe. I call it a ping where I'm like, okay, something's there. This is a ping. There's something there that's making me mad or whatever is upset. And then I have to like walk myself through consciously choosing my words, my tone, how I'm going to deliver it. And I'm not always good at it. And it's really hard.
Because here's how I take that, because I've gone through the same thing. I do actively go through the same thing. It's like we've planted a flag so hard on who we know ourselves as, and we, from an identity perspective, would rather not come off of that, because if we surrender to who we know ourselves as, we give in to something that seemingly makes us weak or different or off of what we know ourselves as, and that's a weird place to go.
It's uncomfortable.
Very, very.
And scary.
Yeah, totally.
And I think it's like a lack of control, a loss of control, I should say. Like, I think in the past, my temper controlled situations. But with this relationship, it does the opposite. I lose control of situations when I have a temper, which is good for me.
Right.
Because it's forcing me to be like, if I want to be in this, I need to stop this shit. Like I cannot act like this. This is not a healthy way to be. I also don't get what I want, which like that's very motivating to me too. Because I'm like, I want to get what I want, like in this exchange that we're having right now. So that helps me check myself and act differently. But yeah, God, like the beginning of this relationship was very hard because we were both like just reactive, triggering each other. Whoa, we're in love. We're like, and it was just like, oh, like so crazy. Mark knows all about it.
Right. Yeah.
Oh my God, he knows the whole thing. But we always we love each other very much. So that has, And I have to say also, we're very good at repair at this point, very strong at repair. We're good at apologizing. We can understand how to, get each other back to feeling okay.
So now you need to work on the prevention.
Exactly. That's where I'm at now. We both are, and we're struggling, but this has been a serious learning process for me of like, I think the reason that I attracted this partner is because I need to work on that part of myself so much that this is my lesson right now. And I want it. Even if it means I don't get the desired outcome of this relationship, that's okay. But I know that like, that's my lesson in this relationship is like, what do I want to present to the world? How do I want to feel? How do I want to make my partner feel? What kind of relationship do I want to have? When I was in my younger relationships, I never had to think about this stuff.
Yeah. It just is.
I just did whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
Like,
You're just floating around, having fun. Yeah.
And they were too accommodating.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't good. I needed someone like this to be like, no.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that. So I think it actually hurt me. But that's what I'm saying about the looks thing, where it's like, I didn't know that was happening. It did not serve me.
Yeah, well, your awareness obviously grew, but just, I think, wisdom of years, right? I think that's kind of the accumulation of life experiences where you're eventually like, oh, maybe I should question this. Because otherwise, you don't know when you're young. You're naive. And you're young and naive. People are young and naive. They don't know. Some are fortunate enough to get out and climb the ladder faster just because they have like a unique, keen sense for something like that. But in most cases, it's like,
yeah. And the thing is, when you're like young and naive and you're getting everything you want, well, what's the need to change?
Yeah, totally. Especially, yeah, exactly. Until that day comes where you realize like, this isn't all the life, and then you end up becoming a 50-year-old person that's like, well, I'm still expecting the same things I did when I was 10. This is how pivotal those early years are and how much standards get set in those formative years, because I believe it's like, I get the early days of like, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 are very formative for kids. But I also believe that like the rest of the years, even into your early 20s, are very formative too, because you're still a baby. You're still hearing out experiences in life, forming habits. And I look back and I think some of my worst financial choices and decisions were in my early 20s when I dated hot chicks and I was trying to pay them off. Like I was the baller in Beverly Hills because I was living in LA at the time. And I was trying to keep up with the Joneses and the rich folk that were all driving their Bentleys that had hundreds of millions of dollars. And here I was, this broke 21-year-old trying to play the same game. And I'm thinking like, well, I got a credit card for $2,100. Here we go. It's like, I shouldn't even have this damn credit card. And so I would get myself in debt to take care of the ladies and my girl. It was a mess. Anyway, that's a whole nother thing. But no, I appreciate you for sharing that. I think the world needs healing in lots of different ways. And so, I don't say healing as if they're messed up, but I just think they need to hear true stories about what's going on. I'm never one that holds that stuff back. So I appreciate you for sharing that there. That's always good.
Absolutely. I agree.
In respect of time, I could keep you here forever, but kind of want to wind this thing up. But I'm sure you have a lot of life experiences, and I always like to throw it at there. People, we can always jam again in the future on another podcast. But is there anything that you would like to share that you didn't get a chance to talk about that's important? You have so many diverse life experiences. This really would take a couple hours, 3 hours to really unpack it all. Because I am very curious about, your libertarian activist mentality. I'm very curious about, the upbringing that your parents had on both the atheist side, the Protestant side. And it's like, I'm very wildly curious about that. But that would open up a whole nother box of, time. I don't think you probably got things to do. But anyway, if you could sum up some things that you didn't say yet, are there some words or advice or just like life thoughts that you have that you didn't get a chance to explore here, that it's just like deep and heavy on your heart that you would like to share with some people so they can be helped out?
I think something that I've been going through recently so much is this relationship stuff. And like I said, like I'm 38 and I'm faced with the reality of like possibly not having a family. There's no guarantee that I don't know if I'll do it in this relationship. And if I don't in this relationship, there's no guarantee that I'll fall in love in time to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really faced with, um, I can imagine a life of what will I do? What kind of life will I live if I'm not focused on my family? Well, should I become a scientist? I don't know. Like, I don't know. I'm like, all right, well, that's a whole different life. But, something that I see so often and I have strong opinions about is all the people in my life are married and have kids. All my best friends, my family members, everyone, except for one of my best friends. He's not married with kids yet. Everyone else is. And, I want people to know who are maybe, in a marriage or have children that are like, oh, like I used to have time or my kids are annoying me or whatever it is. Like, you're just so lucky to have that because the grass is not greener. It's not. And that's coming from a woman who I'm good looking. I'm well traveled. I have money. I have everything.
Right.
But I'm lonely. And facing a life without a family is so depressing. And I wake up and I'm always alone and it sucks. And that's coming from someone that has everything and I can have any man I want and go wherever I want and do all this shit. And I just wish these people knew, like, it's not fun. Your family and the love of your life is it. That's it. That's it. You got the best thing that you can get in life. You have it. Stop looking outside of it.
That's so good. That's so good. I mean, what a way to put a bow on top of an already great conversation. My God.
Yeah.
No, I literally, that is the point of view, I think, is what's so powerful is that anybody could say, yeah, look at you. You could have any guy you want. You've got money. You can travel wherever you want. The things other people are craving. And you're saying, hey, admittingly, by the way, I appreciate you for being honest and transparent. Loneliness it's like the power in you saying that is just going to free so many people to realize like, I'm not alone, right? Hey, you might be lonely in your own place, but because of that message, I realize that I'm not the only one going to this, which then builds a sense of community because of that share. So extremely powerful, grateful for you for that. Again, there's so much we could talk about, which I look forward to maybe in the future. In the meantime, I'll get one more question for you. And maybe you heard it, maybe you haven't in the past. I don't usually always ask everybody the same question. But before we do that, where can people come out and see what you're up to, follow you, find you, all those goodies, whether you're promoting something or not, or they just want to reach out to you, talk to you, or however that might look?
Basically only on Instagram because it's the one platform that I keep up with.
Perfect. What's your Instagram?
My Instagram. I'm not such a digital person so much. So I'm just like one platform. That's it. My Instagram is Julia Geyer NYC. It's Julia Geier NYC. My last name is tricky to spell, but you'll find me.
Perfect.
It's a public account. They can find me on there. And I always post, like, they can DM me. I post my projects. I post everything I'm doing on there. So
amazing.
I'm very active on Instagram.
Love it. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. You can find her at Julia Geyer NYC. Unique spelling. You'll find it, as she says.
Yeah.
So last and final question before we head home with this is, what is always on the grow mean to you?
Always on the grow. Oh, I mean, listen, you're growing if you like it or not.
Hmm.
You cannot avoid that.
Interesting.
You know that saying, the truth will out?
I've never heard that before, but no, that's fantastic.
Oh, this is a good saying. The truth will out, meaning the truth is always there and it's eventually going to come out if you like it or not. And that's tied to growth. You can put on some kind of persona. You can bury your feelings. You can sidestep the circumstances in your life. Eventually, you're going to grow. They're going to catch up to you. The truth's going to come out. You're going to have to face yourself. So the sooner you stop avoiding doing those things, the better, because you are running from something that is going to catch you.
Yeah. And you can't outrun it.
Oh, you can't.
Yeah. It's always a step ahead. You're like, I thought I got that thing beat.
No.
Damn. I'm going to start sprinting again. Oh, God, here he's again. Son of a gun.
Forget it. Throw it in the bag. Just give yourself up to it. You know, that's what I think about growth. That's what I think about it. You're going to do it. So just do it.
That's amazing. That's such a good answer. But that's, I always get good ones. I always even say a couple have been great, but that was a very different spin on it that I don't think anybody's taken. And I think that, that will hit home for a lot of people, especially because I understand it because I've always said that. It's like, we find ways to, I think, lie to ourselves. And even when we don't know when we're lying to ourselves, we're lying to ourselves. And so it's like asking yourself, how can I so well pull back this layer of deceit upon myself that I find the best, most raw and authentic version of me? And so it's like, I need to explore that. It's so good. That's
don't resist it. Just don't resist it. Just dive into it.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. Go just purge. Damn it. Purge and puke out all the old stuff that's not truth seeking. Mark was right. Mark was right. You got a lot of wisdom, brilliant mind, such a good conversation here. I loved what you shared. Extremely grateful. Can't wait for this to roll out. But until next time, Julia, let's keep rocking the road. Hopefully we'll see you in New York. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope to see you in New York soon. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful to be on to it. Really appreciate it.
You crushed it. We'll be back for round 2. I'm already
cool. I would love to.
Ringing you in for round 2. All right.
Next time we'll talk about spirituality and libertarianism.
Let's go.
We'll get into some specifics.
Let's go. That's going to be good. All right. Enjoy your Monday. Take care.
Thank you. You too.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.